welcome to Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening to everyone. Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, over to you.
Radhe Radhe, thank you Pallavi and thank you Prakashji for a wonderful Patanjali Yoga Sutra session. I think we have restarted this session, so good to see you all. So Radhe Radhe, a very warm welcome to all of you. Today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Hope you all are doing great. Good morning, good evening, based on where you're joining in from. So let's continue on our discussion. Yesterday we spoke about, we've been talking about a very important concept of law of reciprocation from God. And we spoke about the concept of Swarup Shaktyanand and Swarupanand. God has an ability to enjoy his own bliss, but then he relishes the bliss through devotee much more because he's seated within. Right? That concept we spoke about. So today we are going to talk about the basis of our relationship with God. Okay, that is the topic that we are going to talk about. And where do we find ourselves in that trajectory? Then we will see, the fundamentals around it, because based on the kind of relationship that we establish, it is very foundational and fundamental to our spiritual journey. So that is why we have been talking about these concepts. So I look forward to another engaging, interactive session today. So welcome again. Let's get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru, like we always do. So I'm going to share my screen and we will get underway. Able to see it? Okay.
Yes.
Let's start it. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Okay, Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening once again. So let's get started. I know by now I'm pretty sure most of you would have memorized this shloka. We have spent about a week. We'll probably have one more discussion and then we'll move on to 4.12. Okay, so let's do it for last but one time. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tastathaiva bhajamyaham mam vartamanuvartante manushya partha sarvashah. Okay, let's take some hands.
Yeah, I see a couple of hands raised. Radhe Radhe, Sandhya ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Ye yatha mam prapadyante tastathaiva bhajamyaham mam vartamanuvartante manushyaha partha sarvashah.
Very nice, thank you. There. All right.
Shri Ramya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Shri Ramya.
Ye yatha mam prapadyante tastathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartamanuvartante manushya partha sarvashah. Thank you.
Very nice, thank you, Shri Ramya.
Shyam ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tastateva bhajamyaham mam vartamanuvartante manushya partha sarvashah. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe, very nice, thank you, Shyamji. SFPG.
Surya Prakash ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji. Ye yada mam prapadyante tastataiva bhajamyaham mama vartamanu vartante manushya partha sarvashah.
Very nice, thank you.
Rahul ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tastathaiva bhajamyaham Mam vartamano vartante Manusya Partha Sarvasha.
Nice, Rahul. Thank you. All right, we have 4 more hands. I can quickly take those.
Sairam ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Sai Ram ji.
राधे राधे
Radhe Radhe.
ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्या पार्थ सर्वशः.
Wonderful. Very nice. Thank you, Sai Ram ji. Okay, let's move on quickly to the remaining hands.
Manju ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead. Manju ji.
Okay, maybe there's some
All right, I'll go ahead. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tanstatthaiva bhajamyaham mama vartamanuvartante manushyaah partha sarvashah.
Well, very nice, Pallavi ji. All right. Okay, I see a few more hands. Okay, let's put we have a couple of minutes.
Riya ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Ye yata mam prapadyante tanstataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanuvartante manushyaः partha sarvashah.
Very nice. Thank you. Okay, let's take the remaining 2 hands and then we get started.
Absolutely. Pragi ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Pragi
Thank
ji.
you. Radhe Radhe. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tansathaiva bhajamyaham mam vartamano vartante manushyaः partha sarvashah.
Very nice, Pragi ji. Last but not the least, Manju ji, please go ahead.
Manju ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्तमनुवर्तन्ते मनुष्यपार्थ सर्वशः.
Very nice, Manju ji. Thank you. So let's get started. The Lord Krishna is saying in this shloka that in whatever way people surrender unto me, I reciprocate accordingly. We spoke about this concept in great depth, that God is obliged to reciprocate at the same moment, in the same emotion, to the same extent. Right? When we love God, He is obliged to do that. And there is no second guessing like we do in the world, whether the person loves us the same way, that person is reciprocating in equal measure or not. God says, I made it very simple. You control your destiny with regards to how much you want me to love you. Okay, so I simplified this. Then we spoke about the next concept. Everyone follows my path knowingly or unknowingly, O son of Pritha. Now everybody follows the path. We'll do a quick recap of that, what we spoke about yesterday, and then we'll get into the topic of our discussion today. We spoke about the inherent dharma or property of these things like water and wetness. You can't separate them. Fire and heat, you cannot separate them from fire. Milk and whiteness go hand in hand. Sugar and sweetness. Similarly, for humans, the inseparable part of their very being and existence is, no matter what they are doing, is to serve. If nothing, you will be serving pets. If not even pets, you will be serving your body. But nobody can stay without serving, because that is an intrinsic or inherent attribute of being humans, of being soul, right? Because you have to serve. So everybody has to serve. And then we spoke about the concept, because everybody has to serve. Now you can choose to serve. We are anyway serving God's material energy. And at the same time, when we are talking about any quest or any acquisition that we are going after in our life, right? Some people think their work, make their work their focal point in life. They're very ambitious in their corporate life, finding a dream job and getting to those executive positions. They want to have a CXO, CSO, CEO, something like that by the age, a certain age, those kind of goals they have. Then finding a perfect spouse. Some people think that is the real success in life. I mean, doesn't work for that long, but that is what they think. Finding that dream house, raising kids, all these things, right? End of the day, everything that you're doing is basically going for the happiness, right? And our scriptures say God is bliss. And basically, knowingly, unknowingly, regardless of what activity you are engaged in, first of all, you are serving Maya. Secondly, you are going after bliss. You are seeking God, right? So nobody can stay without seeking bliss. So that means knowingly or unknowingly, everybody is seeking God. And that is essentially what Lord Krishna is saying in the second part of the shloka, that everybody is following his path. You may not know it today. You may wake up to that fact, later point in life, or maybe some other lifetime or after lifetimes. But you are actually seeking God. You are seeking bliss, and it's an irrefutable part of our existence. It's a spiritual law. You have no choice but to seek bliss. You have no choice but to serve. Now, if you serve Maya, regardless, anyway, you have to serve Maya. If you simply tweak your consciousness around, why you are serving Maya while serving Maya, that will serve the purpose. That is essentially what Karam Yoga is, right? So this is what we were talking about yesterday. Technically, nobody is an atheist. Okay, you may believe I'm not a believer, agnostic, or an atheist, but if you can say I'm not seeking happiness, or if you can say I'm not going to serve anybody, then you can say I'm an atheist, right? You may not be a believer in your head, but technically, if you look at it, you are still seeking God. You may not acknowledge it today, but end of the day, everybody's walking on the same path. Moving on, atheists cannot get away from serving material energy, Maya. Nobody can get away from that. And Maya, as you can see this picture on your right hand side, it is holding them under the sway of its generals. These are the generals of Maya, led by the chief general, which is called anger. So anger, lust, greed, all that stuff keeps on tormenting us, right? And on the other hand, people who turn their mind away from worldly attraction and look upon God as the goal and refuge, he takes care of them just like a mother takes care of her child. So that's the concept of surrender, right? It is introduced. If you take refuge in God and make it the goal of life, both means and goal, means and goal both, then God takes control of your life, starts taking control of your life, right? That yoga kshem vyamyaham concept, the fact that God says, then I start taking care of the devotee, those things start mixing up. But as you keep on perfecting your surrender, that proportion of the control that God takes over your life keeps on increasing as well. Now let's get started with a story. Okay, here's a car. It's not moving, but it'll move soon. Okay, so this guy is driving a car, and somebody comes on the way and says, "Can I get a ride?" Yeah, he's asking for a lift like we do. So this guy says, do I even have any acquaintance with you? Do I know you? He doesn't know it. So what happens? He simply moves on. Okay, he simply moves on. And then as he moves on, further down the road, there is Sharmaji. Right? Do you like it? I think I like this guy pretty much. So this guy is his friend, by the way. So he says, Sharmaji, where are you walking? Come, I'll drop you. Now, previously, he didn't have any acquaintance with that guy, so he simply moved on. And here he sees somebody whom he knows, very well knows, and he's walking. He says, no, today I've decided to take a walk to office. I'm going to do my 10,000 steps. He says, no, come, I'm going in that direction. I'll drop you. He said, but I have to walk. He said, you can walk in the car, but come, sit. So in this person, he's insisting him to take a lift just because he's his acquaintance. He has built some kind of a rapport with this person. He knows this person. So you see the difference here? Now, of course, it's a loose example, but the concept that we are going to talk about today is that we need to have some kind of an acquaintance built with God before we start approaching him, right? We simply go ring a bell in the temple and dump our wish list to him, right? The point is, have we built some kind of an acquaintance with him? He knows us, right? It's not like a regular relationship we are talking about in the world. He's omniscient, he knows everybody, right? So what kind of an introduction we need? But it's important to build some kind of a basis for devotion with God. All right. So this is typically how the trajectory of a soul goes. Okay. It is not sequential in process. You can jump onto any step, but let's understand how do you build acquaintance, right? You see the God is at the center and you kind of build a relationship with God. So let's introduce some of the stops here. It starts off with God acknowledgement, God acknowledging people who are called theists or believers. who believe in afterlife, you acknowledge God. First of all, you acknowledge there is a divinity, something more than me, something more powerful than me, right? That's the first step. This step itself can take us millions and billions of life. We may be at the cusp of it, or it may take us a long time just to get to the point where we start acknowledging divinity, that there is something bigger than us, right? Or if you are a Gyani, you say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am God itself, right? That is a different thing, but at least you are acknowledging there is a bigger game unfolding here, not just coming, eating, sleeping, mating, paying EMIs, and dozing off one day. Okay, there is something bigger than that. So some acknowledgement that, there is some kind of a game unfolding here and there's divinity. That's typically how it starts, right? That is a very key point, on inflection point in anybody's spiritual journey, when that acknowledgement, acceptance comes. Not completely, but at least a spark. Then that is the first step. And then what happens? Typically, God get into the trap of God fearing. Oh my God, if I do this, this will happen. If I do this, this will happen. Right. And then you take it to a different level altogether, that God is going to whack me and this and that, as if, somebody right on the top is sitting, watching us, monitoring us, ready to wield a stick or give us a rap on our knuckles. So that God fearing, but it is a good thing. At least you are acknowledging and you are fearful of committing bad deeds. It is a good milestone as well, right? When you become God fearing people are generally good because they try to align to higher principles and they try to refrain from things that can hurt people around. So it's a good state to be in as well. However, one is not obliged to just stop there as well. As you gain more understanding, as you come in contact with Guru and saints, and as your knowledge deepens, then you move towards one of these two: God revering, respecting, or God loving stage. Okay. Now, it's not a sequential process. You could directly jump to any stage, but we will talk about these two, where you have awe, reverence, respect for God, and then God loving. How is it different? Are they both same or are they different? And how does it really matter? Is what we are going to talk about in today's and tomorrow's session. It's an important thing because this would determine the course or basically the day-to-day practice or the day-to-day mindset or the day-to-day thought process that you bring to your spirituality based on how you want to approach it. Right? We'll briefly talk about Raganuga Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti as well. But let's understand, let's say we have already acknowledged God. That is why we are subscribing to Bhagavad Gita and taking out time to read it. So we are past that stage. Let's say we are in a God-fearing stage, right? So now it is the time to actually take a jump to either one of these, right? And which one would be beneficial for us is what we are going to talk about very systematically. Okay. So God revering, respecting, or God loving. Now let's start with, okay, we understand God. So we would strive to understand who God is. Okay. So let's get into the definition of God. What does Bhagwan means? Bhag. It's not bhag, okay, like in bhag milkha bhag, it's bhag. Like dhanvan, shaurevan, saundaryavan, right? We have bhagwan. What bhag means? Bhag means opulences. Okay, one who owns a lot of opulences. In fact, there are 6 opulences that God has, that typically we as humans also get attracted towards in this world. If somebody has just a spark of that, anybody, we get very impressed. Oh my God, what kind of a person it is. And what are those opulences? Let's look at those. The first one is beauty, right? If somebody is beautiful, attractive, we do get attracted towards them, right? That's for a reason that people go for Miss Universe, Miss World, Mr. Universe for that matter as well. So people do get attracted, right? Packaging does matter. However, the problem with that is that it is, first of all, in finite extent and it is temporary, right? Who was Miss Universe in 94 or 96? I mean, maybe you remember it now, I do, but who was in 62, 65? Nobody would remember that, right? Because people grow old and then they fade from the memory. So it is, and so secondly, it is still not perfect, right? You can always find more beautiful people, maybe down the generations or otherwise, and it's very subjective as well. So it is given to people to a very small fraction, and that too very temporarily. And when it comes to God, it is infinite. Right? We were talking about the concept when does say God say, oh my God, when he looks at himself. That is how beautiful God is. Now, if a Cupid comes in front of us, forget about Cupid. Even if somebody from celestial abodes comes to us and meets us for whatever reason, we will faint just by the aroma of their body. Okay, forget about the look. That is how beautiful, attractive they look. And God can make thousands of Cupids seem insipid in front of him. Okay, that is what God is, because Cupid is getting his beauty from God's just fraction of that. That is how attractive Krishna is. We can't tolerate that beauty. If Radharani comes in front of us or Krishna comes, we will faint. Okay, we can't take that, because either side, our heart has a limited capacity. It'll just disintegrate. That is how beautiful God is. So that is the first Aishwarya of God. Second is knowledge. We say Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. He is the Guru's Guru. So he has the perfect knowledge. That he's the one who imparted this message of Bhagavad Gita. And then he keeps on re-establishing this message whenever the chain is broken. So he is all perfect and all knowledgeable. Nobody knows dharma better than him. Right? So God is the most powerful, most knowledgeable person, because it's his creation, end of the day, right? And he imparts knowledge to Brahmaji, and then he can create everything. Can you imagine somebody creating air out of ether, and then fire out of air, and then water out of fire, and then soil out of water? Nobody has the technology. Can scientists do that? No. Where is that knowledge coming from? Brahmaji. Who's imparting that knowledge to him? God himself, right? So God is the most intelligent person, most knowledgeable. Strength. What to talk about strength, right? With his little finger, he can lift Govardhan. Just by tapping, he can kill demons, right? Not a big deal. So he's the most strength person. Dara Singh does not, WWF, Undertaker, nobody stands any chance against him. That is how powerful God is. So needless to say. Then, so people who have strength, who have knowledge, who have beauty, we do get attracted towards them. The problem is they have it in finite extent, and that too temporarily. God has it to infinite extent and permanent, right? What is the next one? Wealth. Now, Kuber, Riddhi, Siddhi are at his disposal, right? When Krishna said Hastinapur that Khandav Krast was given to Pandavas, with Vishwakarmas and everybody's help, he was able to stand that entire thing overnight, right? So Kuber is at his disposal. Lakshmi is his wife. So what to talk about wealth part of it, right? And people who are wealthy in this world, Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, people respect them. Why? Because they are wealthy, right? So there's an awe and reverence for that. And God is the most wealthiest person on this creation, okay? If that's news to you, then please digest this news. He's the most wealthiest person. Then fame, of course. If you want to believe in fame of Krishna, go check out in Banke Bihari temple, okay? How famous he is. People will do stampede just to get his darshan, right? And he's very famous no matter what he does. Yesterday we were talking about Ran Chhod. If somebody runs from the field, he will draw infamy and disgrace for the rest of his life. But because God ran away, he became Ran Chhod. You know, that became one of his name and story of the legends for come. So he's very famous. You go and you'll find a Vishnu temple even in Mongolia, or for that matter, those places where you can't even imagine. Bhagavad Gita gets circulated even in Marxist regions like Russia. So God is popular, okay? There's no doubt about it. And if you are following Krishna or Krishna lovers on Bhagavad Gita, you can on Insta or any other place, you'll see how famous Krishna is, okay? And he'll continue to be famous. And then, of course, the detachment part of it is he's completely detached. It's not that he's very attached to any of it, and he's completely detached to that. In fact, he had told Uddhav that now I'm going to close my pastime and all of my sons, they are going to fight, and my whole Nagari that he had created will submerge under sea. He's completely detached to that process. It's not that he's attached to his sons and his legacy and nothing of that sort. So even in the world, when we come across monks who are detached, who have given up world, we get impressed. And God is the epitome pinnacle of that, because everything that humans get is but a spark of his splendor. Okay. So these opulences are in full and in unlimited extent in God. It is also called Shad Aishwarya Paripurn. God is called Shad Aishwarya, Shad 6. These are his 6 Aishwarya Shakti and Paripurn. Paripurn means full and unlimited in him. So if we keep that in mind, these Shaktis, now let's talk about this. Now here is God cosmic form, right? So when in the world, a boy and a girl, they they are thinking of a possible alliance, they check on each other's status as well. And typically, the class has to match to make a good match. Okay, if it's a very extraordinary love story like it happens in Bollywood, a poor guy meets a rich girl, those can make for a good melodrama. But typically, people check for compatibility and even the class aspect of it, right? Businessman will marry in a business family like Ambani's did recently. Doctors will marry doctors and stuff like that, right? So you look for a match, commonality around it, right? Some kind of a common denominator has to be there, which should give you a hope, right? Nobody grows up thinking I'm going to marry Aishwarya Rai. They know that's beyond the reach, right? They're looking for a girl next door and or a boy next door because they know that is out of the reach, right? When Katie Holmes, she married Tom Cruise, she was like, oh, so awestruck, because she used to put posters on her walls, and one day she got to marry him. So it took her a while to digest, now he's my husband. Same problem Madhuri Dixit had, because people, oh, she's Madhuri Dixit, how can you marry her? Right? So she had to find a guy, not in India, but who could look at her as a person. So we look for somebody where we can relate to them. There is some kind of a comparison we can draw in so that it's easy for us, mind, right? Now, when we are looking at God with his Aishwarya Shaktis, we are rotating in 8.4 million. What is the basis of alliance here? Bhakti, or to form some kind of a relationship with him, right? He's like Paripurn in Shad Aishwarya, and we are like a tiny insignificant soul, Patit, basically fallen soul, who's rotating in 8.4 million species, becoming ant, pig, and whatnot. While God, he simply desires and the world is created. He's Satya Sankalp. He doesn't have to work like an engineer has to do. He thinks and the world unfolds, right? He simply thinks. And the Mahan Prakriti, Ahankar, Panchtan Matras, Panch Mahabhut, the whole world gets created. So what is the comparison? What is the alliance here we can think about with God? God opens the eye and annihilates the world, right? Shankar Bhagavan, he'll open his third eye in the world, boom, gone. That is what God is, if you think about. And God's one breath is so awesome and mind-blowing that establishing a relation seems overwhelming. One breath, quickly, we'll check out God's one breath. Okay, now these are the 4 yugas we have spoken about. If you look at these 4 yugas, Satyug, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali, it is 4.3 million years, if you look at it, right? 4.3. If you multiply it by 71 Chatur yugas, it becomes 1 Manvantar. Okay, that is the calculation. And if you multiply 1 Manvantar with 14 Manvantars, it becomes 1 day of Brahma, 1 Kalpa, 1 day, not even night. And we are in 7th Manvantar, by the way, and 100 years is the age of Brahmaji. Okay, so 100 years of Brahma is 1 breath of Mahavishnu. That is 1 breath of God. Just think of our breath. It's like at a different dimension altogether. Just imagine if Mahavishnu starts doing pranayam, what will happen? 1 breath is so many 100 years of Brahmaji. So it is like there is absolutely no comparison. What kind of a relationship we can build with God, who is so grand, so much of Aishwarya he carries, right? Absolutely very, very difficult to comprehend that aspect. So in that regard, if we continue, let's talk about a Leela, about this God's Aishwarya Shakti aspect of it, right? So when the Narsingh avatar happened, see, his Aishwarya is unlimited. And we'll look at a Leela to appreciate or to understand, how difficult it is for a soul to build that relationship with God if we keep his Aishwarya or reverence aspect in mind. So when Narsingh avatar happened, Narsingh Bhagavan came to, when Prahlad, he was being tormented by Hiranyakashyap, and then he said that you need to worship me, and then he said your Vishnu is going to protect you. He said, of course he will. And he said, where does he reside? He said, he's pretty much permeating the entire universe, every atom. He said, is he present in this pillar also? He said, of course he is. And then he smashed the pillar and Narsingh avatar took place, right? And we know the story around it. And then he killed Hiranyakashyap. So when that happened, this whole Leela happened. See, it's like when the chief dignitary of this universe has come to your planet, the people have to come as well. When president comes to our state, the mayor has to come, the chief minister has to come, all the ministers, cabinet, IS officers, they all have to come, right? So when God's avatar took place, of course, there was an ensemble of people that congregated. Who will greet him first was the question. So Indra was told, you are the Devata's king, you go and meet him. Indra said, you know what, my feet are trembling. I don't think I can meet him in that form, because you look at God's form, and that too angry form in his full glory and Aishwarya, he did not have the guts to face him. Right. So typically that reminds me of our meetings, right? When some executives come, people line up to meet him, right? When some senior executive comes and the people want visibility in corporate, say, okay, I'll go in front of them and score some brownie points so that I can get promotion, or I'll be recognized. So same thing kind of a deal happened there. So they asked Indra, you go there. So this, when some, you know, person of significance comes, typically you want to be seen in front of them. You know, you see that when minister comes, people will come and go in front of them. So it reminds me of our leader, you know, whenever he would come for happy hours and stuff, everybody would be up, okay, to seek his attention and go in front of him. And when the same executive would come after a long vacation, nobody would like to, you know, get onto that meeting, because he'll be in a really bad mood. You know, who wants to come back to office after a long vacation to see so many things are not working? So something similar happened with Indra. He was like, okay, I'm not going in front of him. So Indra delegates it to, he says, it's your Brahman, he has come to your creation, so you are the right person to go. He tells Brahmaji, see, he was young those days, okay? Typically we see old Brahmaji. I think he was young those days. So they said, Brahmaji, why don't you go? So Brahmaji said, you have an urgent task? Sorry, I can't go. Okay, I have something important to do. Even he could not muster the guts to do that. And then they said, Shankar Bhagwan. Okay, they said, Shankar Bhagwan, why don't you go? We'll come behind you. Shankar Bhagwanji said, no, you know, I don't think we can do that. I think this avatar has taken place for the sake of Prahlad. So why don't we let him deal with it? So they sent Prahlad, and they just lined up with him. So the moment Narsingh avatar saw Prahlad, he had a wide smile, and, you know, or his emotion transformed into a loving emotion, and he started playing with him. And then everybody started going, well, I'll go first. Indra was right in the front of line, and now everybody's like, everything has been sorted out. So the point here is, when God is in his Aishwarya form, right? Aishwarya Shakti of God is very overwhelming, even for Devi Devatas. You can't handle that. And the same mistake was done by Arjun also. When Arjun asked, can I see you? God said, sure. And he gave him the divine vision, and his knees started trembling. He could not see that, you know, so many people bones getting crushed in his mouth, and pretty much everything in his cosmic form was overwhelming for him. And he said, can you not, you know, Keshav, can you please come back into your regular form, two-armed form? He could not take that. So Aishwarya Shakti of God inspires awe and reverence. Okay. But then there's another aspect to God's personality, which is the sweetness. Okay. That is the sweetness aspect of it, which we are going to introduce and talk about. So now, depending upon which form you associate with would determine how you approach it. Now you think with Narsingh Avatar, or with his cosmic form, or with his almighty form, his official form, you can form a relationship, loving relationship. It's difficult to do that. You can only limit it to respect and awe and reverence. Okay. And that determines how would you approach your devotion with God when you build a basis of some kind of a relationship with him. How do you proceed? And that would determine the course of your spiritual journey, because you are going to deepen those sanskar over time. Any questions so far on what we have discussed before we introduce the new concept? I think probably I'll introduce it tomorrow, because it's a concept in itself, and with some leelas, of course. Any questions on what we have discussed so far? Yes, Prashanta.
I see one hand raised.
Mhm.
Prashanta ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Nitinji, there was a slide of fear of God, right? And I have learned about that. Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom in the Bible, right? Proverb 9:10, I think. So those things contradict there. And I was like, always things, if we don't fear God, won't we deviate from the path? Like, if we start say, okay, I love God, God is merciful, then we can go into the heinous act as well, right? That can be the crooked mind of an individual. So fear of God is necessary for the proper pathway in life. So what would be your comment on that?
It's a good thing, but you don't have to limit it at that level alone, right? When you have an option to go closer to God, why not take that option? Why would you stay in fear? See, when you love somebody, you respect. It's not like heinous. It's like being hypocrite. It is being hypocritical when you use love for God as an excuse to do heinous acts and bad acts. That is not love for God, cannot be. When you love somebody, you respect that person. You want to know more about them and you want to please them, right? So that is being hypocritical, where we are using love as an excuse to do things that you want to do. So God fearing is an initial thing, but then when you go past that stage, God loving is the ultimate thing, right? We will talk about when you love, when you build a relationship with God, keeping his Aishwarya Chintan in mind, his grandness. Again, you are limiting yourself. You cannot transcend to the love level at that point. You can only revere him from a distance as a king, probably, not more than that, right? But when you go a step further, because God is giving you an option, we'll talk about that concept tomorrow. It's not that you don't have that option. Why won't you take that option, right? And when we spoke about the previous concept, when we spoke about the concept of Sarup Shaktyanand, right? Which one would give God more pleasure? Now think of a person who's a judge. You think judge enjoys hammering, putting that hammer and pronouncing those judgments more, or playing with his family or child at home? Which one does the judge prefer more? Okay, same thing can be extended to gods as well, right? He loves where his Aishwarya thing is kept aside and you build a personal connect with him. In fact, in Braj, his Aishwarya Shakti is banned. His band is Aishwarya Shakti. Okay, you have no entry into this because he wants to build that connect. He's giving you that choice, right? Now you talk about the scriptures. Yes, God fearing is one aspect of it, but then as you deepen, as you progress in your spiritual journey, you start subscribing to the higher message. Now, if you go with Quran Sharif, God fearing is the automatic thing. Your hands will be cut and this will happen and this punishment will be meted out if you do this, kahar and all that stuff. But as you go further, then you think, no, goodness is there. You should subscribe to doing good things. If you go further in Bhagavad Gita, then you will understand that, doing things for the pleasure of God and attaining moksha, salvation, is the goal of life. If you go even further in Bhagavatam, it will tell you loving God is, even higher than dharam, karam, arth, moksha. Leave aside these four things. Let's enter into the depths of devotion. If you go to Chaitanya Charitamrita, then it will tell you even the finer tastes of devotion. So really depending upon what message you are ready for, you can subscribe to that. Okay, fearing is a very initial stage.
Okay, that means guilt and all those negative emotions like guilt, regrets, hatred, and all that, those pasatap type of things, they get dissolved in the loving aspect of God.
That's true. You don't think about those things. Those aspects actually, when you do devotion, all of those things are taken care of. You don't get into that. These are negative energies you get into. And one of the aspects of spirituality is to conquer lower energies or negative energies with higher and positive energies. And devotion is all about that. You don't get into guilt and all that stuff. You learn and you move forward. Right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Radha Radha.
Yeah. Beautifully explained, Nitinji. There are a couple of more hands. So we'll take Manjuji. Manjuji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji.
Manjuji.
I just wanted to say that in sync with you only. When you are loving God, any other mistakes will not happen. You are in consciously connected. When you are connected with God, mistakes do not happen at all. First of all, that's why God fearing has already crossed that path. I mean, that we have crossed that path itself. So the previous question, like someone was asking, that when we are in love with God, like mistakes cannot happen from the devotee. I mean, like mistakes will not.
Basically, it's a journey, of course. Yeah, that doesn't mean you become mistake proof.
Yeah.
Your intention keeps on getting purified.
You do not hurt like others. That's what I wanted to know.
Your intention will keep on getting purified. See, love for God requires a lot of purity. Right?
And one more point I wanted to share, Nitinji, regarding the Swarupananda and Swarupa Shaktananda. It just in like simple terms to understand, like mother and child relationship, mother herself gets Anand without children also, that is Swarupananda. But in children, she finds more happiness when the children become happy, she becomes more happier, more than herself happiness. So this is like finding happiness in children is Swarupa Shaktananda. Finding herself happiness is Swarupananda. So mother-child relationship is exactly equal to God and devotee relationship.
Beautiful analogy. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that, Manjuji. Very nice. It's a very nice way to understand that analogy, right?
This one yesterday only I got it, so I thought of sharing with you people.
Thank you so much. Very good. Very nice analogy. A lot of people can actually relate to it, right?
I was not understanding that Swarupa Shaktananda and Swarupananda. I was contemplating on what is it. Then I got like this is how it is like that.
Very nice. Love that analogy. It's a very nice way. I think all of us can relate to it quickly now. You get more happiness from the happiness of the person whom you love, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, very true. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manjuji. Heartbreaker ji. Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Heartbreaker ji.
Yeah. Radhe Radhe to everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
So my is am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So my so in our हमारे घर में ऐसे हमारे घर वाले बोलते हैं कि don't compare with others. Okay. So don't compare with others. But आप यहाँ पे जो बताए हैं कि भगवान नॉलेज में सबसे अच्छे हैं, भगवान हर चीज में अच्छे हैं. अगर हम भगवान से भी कंपेयर करें कि ये इनसे अच्छा, हमको इनको फॉलो करना चाहिए, हम ये अच्छे हमको इनको फॉलो करना चाहिए, तो उनके हिसाब से राइट नाउ कि हमें ऑफ कोर्स हमें भगवान का वो ज्ञाप करना चाहिए, चिंतन करना चाहिए, तो वो हमें अपने ड्रीम्स को फॉलो करने में मदद करेंगे, हमारे माइंड्स को प्योर करने में मदद करेंगे. मगर हमारा भी तो कुछ वजूद है ना, हम भी तो, हमारे अंदर भी तो भगवान है, उनको कौन देखेगा?
If somebody can help me understand the question.
So I will tell you कि why we are comparing कि ये अच्छे हैं तो इनके जैसे फॉलो करो, ये अच्छे हैं तो इनके जैसे फॉलो करो, ये अच्छे तो अच्छे ये फॉलो करो, ब्रह्मा जी अच्छे हैं, पावरफुल हैं तो इनके जैसे बनो, ये भगवान है तो इनके जैसे जाप करो. सो अपना भी तो कुछ, अपना भी तो एक वजूद है ना लाइफ में कि हम अपने आप को फॉलो करें, क्योंकि भगवान जो जी रहे थे वो उनके आसपास के सराउंडिंग था, वो उनका अपना इन्वायरमेंट था, उसके अकॉर्डिंग वो इतने अच्छे बने. तो हम भी अगर अपना इन्वायरमेंट अच्छा करेंगे तो हम जी पाएंगे. तो वो बोल रहे थे कि इट इज नॉट नेसेसरी.
So basically we have to see, yeah, I get what you're trying to say. हमारा वजूद, when you say we have to, if we go fundamentally, let's understand this part. हमारा वजूद और हमारी existence, our existence, okay, for the sake of all the audience, is dependent on God himself, right? If he departs our soul, we have no existence. Okay, that is what your true wajud is, like it or not. Okay, that is the fact of life. So let's understand the fundamental first. He's the very basis of your existence. It is the ground that you are standing upon. Okay, so this false ego that we carry, that is the cause of our undoing. In fact, when you start aligning and understanding that, first of all, God is the very basis of our existence. You simply acknowledge that and understand that, then it will give you infinite potential. And God has two definitions, one who is great and one who has an ability to make you great. Okay, he will make you great when you have cleared yourself up. Okay, you have created space for that. If you are so full of yourself, then he will wait. Okay, so that is the biggest problem. That is why we are repeating here. We are so full of ourselves. We have a false pride and ego within us that stops God from giving us all that he has. So let's understand this concept in entirety from fundamental level. He's the basis of our existence. Okay, we have no wajud without his energy. He's the powerhouse.
भगवत गीता तो किसी और ने लिखा है ना, तो हो सकता है उनके भी भगवान हो और उनको पता हो.
Now we are taking it to another level altogether. It's भगवान के भगवान नहीं है. भगवान के definition है, if the bogie is being pulled by another bogie, another bogie is pulled by another bogie, but engine is not pulled by anything, and God is engine. Okay, in Brahma Sutra itself, this question has been addressed right at the beginning by Ved Vyas. Okay, that for who is God? He's first of all, he says the Vathato Brahma Jigyasa is the first sutra. He's saying now inquire who is God now that you are born as a human. And the second sutra is answered, the one who created this whole world. Okay, there's no creator of the now. If you want to get into a philosophical thing, okay, who created the creator and all that stuff, it will not take anywhere. Let's just understand God. Okay, there's nothing beyond God. When everything ceases to exist, there is only God. And after, before everything, God was the only thing that existed. Okay, that is how it has been explained in scriptures. Now, if we struggle to grapple with that concept, we need to think deeply and we have to pray to God so that it clicks. Otherwise, it will become an intellectual gymnastic which will not take us anywhere. Let's take reference from our scriptures to understand this concept as opposed to having a philosophical debate on this topic. Okay, God is the one who created this world. Okay, now it's not like an individual God is somebody else, you are somebody else, he has his own identity, we have, I don't know, I think he's the very basis of our existence. He's permeating every atom of this universe, including every part of your body. Okay, even the cells. He's the one who's energizing it, because of which it is able to sustain. So let's understand that, think deeply about this topic, and then we can talk about these questions as well. Happy to have an offline conversation with you. If there are some fundamentals that you want to discuss further, and we can have an offline conversation.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Nitinji. I saw Annapurna ji's hand raised. Now I am not seeing Annapurna ji. Oh, I'm sorry. Annapurna ji. Okay, I don't see her. Radhe Radhe, Sandhya ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Annapurna ji, I can see her. Should I unmute her?
You go ahead first. I'll find her. Okay.
Yeah. I was saying this, that like one thing I feel is that even having this knowledge of Shad Aishwarya of God also actually at times help us in deepening our personal relationship with God. In the sense we see anything beautiful or intellectually fascinating in the world around us, but then having this knowledge that this is nothing but just a splendor of what God is, right? And then that God who is like infinite in everything can be our own, and he has infinite love as well for us. So then that just makes it even more attractive to love that entity than anything else in this material world. So
yes, if you can think about the Shadow Aishwarya, because despite the fact that he's at a different level altogether, right? He's still willing to invest in us individually, and we have the ability to make him our own. That itself is a very fascinating concept, right? Or a possibility. So very true. We can actually think it that way. And also, this knowledge helps us because whatever we get attracted to in this world, if we bring this, like you rightly pointed out, if we simply bring this knowledge that, you know what, this is but a spark of God's splendor. If this person we are finding so attractive, or we are finding building a hook to, or our mind is getting attached to this thing or a person or an object or a situation, then just imagine what is the possibility with God, who has this thing in infinite extent. We can't even imagine, we can't even conceive that possibility, right? So it should help our devotion as well. We get attracted towards worldly things. So just imagine if God actually decides to captivate your mind, which he does when he takes avatar, right? We get attached to our kids, we get attached to relatives, people around. Now God, when he descends, does his Leela, he comes with an express purpose of actually captivating your mind so that you can love him. So we can't even imagine the level of intoxication those people are subjected to. Yashoda Maiya, the gopis, the gopas, his friends, his father, mother. Oh, we can't even imagine, what he's giving them at that point, because he's Ras Sindhu. And he has taken on an avatar to just give them that only. So it is, we can't even think about that, right? So yes, it's a good way to think about his Shad Aishwarya. But when we think of him in awe and reverence, then the love aspect takes a bit of a backseat. So that respect comes at that moment. And God says, take that respect out. I would love that even more. I've seen some people like who are like ministers or maybe high performing at their job, and everybody's saluting them. But when he comes to his home, mother will say, okay, you didn't bring the mangoes that I asked you to. She's not saluting him, or his wife is not doing his arti, right? Like people would be doing when he's outside. So he enjoys that personal space more than his official treatment outside. And it's the same with God as well. He would rather have us deal with him, build that one-on-one, as opposed to look at him in awe and reverence. And then going back to the shloka, he has to reciprocate. Now, how do you think would he love to reciprocate as a official in his Vishnu form? or in ship form where he has to maintain a protocol or a distance with you, or would he love to engage with you in person? Of course, that homely form is something that he engages, loves more. And that is what we are going to talk about tomorrow. We'll speak about some Leelas and take inspiration from those as well. Okay, let's take a few more hands.
Yes, Rahulji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. There is a very beautiful words from Radha Govind Geet about our existence, which says, "मैं तो हूँ आत्मा, गोविंद राधे, आत्मा की आत्मा परमात्मा बता दे." So that is what it tells about our existence. If our Thakurji is not there, then there is no point of our existence.
Absolutely.
You see, it's like Vikas, to answer your point, the fan says I am also somebody because I can move. Now the powerhouse cuts the power. Okay, the powerhouse, then fan has no existence. Same thing happened when God actually, this Vayu Dev and Agni Dev, they developed a pride. So God actually became a ball of fire and simply, stationed himself in celestial abode. Indra says, go check it out who's this person is. So Agni Dev goes, Agni Dev says, okay, you know what, who are you? He said, who are you? He said, I am Agni Dev, so and so. Like you said, we have my Vajud. So he said, who are you? He said, Agni Dev, you don't know. When I raise my temperature, I will burn you to ashes. God said, all right, go on. Agni Dev starts increasing its temperature. God cuts the power because he's the source of Agni's energy as well. And Agni Dev is not able to do anything. And then the Vayu Dev comes. He said, who are you? He said, I'm Vayu Dev. He said, who are you? He said, what? I mean, you tell me, who are you? He said, I'm Vayu Dev and I can blow you off just like that. He said, okay, go ahead and try. And then he starts increasing his speed, becoming a tornado. He cuts the power. He's not able to do. He cannot even move a blade of grass. So because God is the powerhouse for everything. So you have to understand that. He's the powerhouse. He's the energy behind your existence. If he departs, you can't even think. Your soul has no existence whatsoever. So that Vajud thing, that is a false pride that we talk about. And that is what is doing cause of our undoing in every life. And Karam Yoga aspect is that sense of doership when we start relinquishing, giving up. Then God starts taking control of us and starts making an instrument. Otherwise, he said, go ahead. You keep on doing binding karma and I will keep giving you the results of your karmas. Yes, Manjuji, you wanted to add something? So
Please go
basically,
ahead, please go ahead, Manjuji.
Radhe, I have just one doubt.
I just wanted to add one statement. We are nothing. But
Yes.
with God's grace, we can become everything, anything. Although we are nothing, but we can become anything. Like God himself. That is the power we have because of being a part of God. Yes, Manjuji, you wanted to add something?
Radhe Radhe Nitinji, I have doubt like in one breath of Mahavishnu, that slide you showed, no?
I'm pulling it up.
Yeah, here I just like wanted to ask if it is the one breath means annihilation, breathe in, breathe out. Like my thing is, I just had a got like creation and annihilation. Is it like he's breathing and breathe out, like how the world comes?
I think the breathe in is where 100 years of Brahma is. It is called Mahapralay. So there are 4 kinds of pralays. Nitya Pralay, Naimittik Pralay, Atyantik Pralay and Mahapralay. So I may be getting one of the pralays wrong maybe, but this is called Mahapralay where everything gets into the Mahodar of Mahavishnu when he takes that breath inside. We, along with our causal bodies, we get into that. It is called Mahapralay. And then he releases it back. The creation unfolds again. So that is how one breath of Vishnu is.
Oh, complete. Okay.
That is,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Aishwarya Shakti, talking about Aishwarya Shakti of God, yeah.
Thank you so much, Nitinji. And this in the Bhagavan, you should like Bhaga, you said that source of opulences, and one is like just
Possessor. One means possessor.
possessor who is having those things.
When we say Dhanwan means one who is a
Yeah.
possessor of wealth.
Okay.
Right?
Got it.
Balwan means possessor of strength.
Okay.
So Bhagwan means who's possessor of all the 6 opulences that we get attracted towards.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nitinji. Radhe.
Thank you, Nitinji. Can I please take a moment for announcements,
Sure,
Nitinji?
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, everyone, I have already shared the feedback tracker. Please put in your comments, feedback, and questions in the feedback tracker so that Nitinji can get back to you on all these questions. And the most important events which are happening is Swamiji's tour is going on in Tampa, Florida. So Swamiji is in Tampa, Florida for Life Transformation Program. And there is the Life Transformation Program is going to be in Dallas, Texas, with Swamiji, 7 days to hear and absorb divine knowledge, days of yoga, meditation, pranayam, 7 days filled with blissful kirtan chanting, evenings of dinner prasad for attendees. Of course, this is also important. Morning walks, satsang, breakfast with Swamiji. Wow. So this is all going to be from July 29 to August 4 in Radha Krishna Temple, Dallas. Wow, that's a great program, and I'm going to share the link for this. This is a free life transformation program with Swamiji. Please take advantage of this program and enjoy the divine presence of Swamiji.
Thank you, Pallaviji. So morning walk is free with breakfast. Okay, can you believe it? It's such an attractive proposition. Free morning walk with Swamiji, okay, and breakfast, of course, is free. And LTP is free as well. So many free things. And LTP, as I told you, it is worth millions and billions of dollars in terms of knowledge that you're going to get.
Yes.
Priceless amount of knowledge that Swamiji imparts freely. So do take that opportunity to come over and tell your friends, mark in Facebook, I'm going, so that they can inspire other people as well. Change your status to, so many people have reached out to me looking at my status, what's going on, you'd like to meet Swamiji and where it's happening and stuff like that. So these small steps do a long way in doing our little bit with regards to our Guru Seva, from whom we have received so much. So please do check it out and help spread the word around as well. Thank you so much.
There is one question in chat, Nitinji, that if God is that much powerful, and then why he brings sorrows, hate, and crimes in this world?
Why he brings? He doesn't bring actually. See, this is how it works. So
Vikas ji has asked this question.
So you know what? I'll give you an analogy. So a guy was roaming around in the city and he sees somebody with a beard. Okay, beard. And then he goes around and then he sees another guy with a beard. And then he goes around, he sees another guy with a beard. And then he concludes there is no barber in this city. Okay.
Yes.
There's a logical fallacy in that, right? No, the barber is there, but those people have decided not to take a shave. Similarly, when we turn our back towards God, or when we are bereft of God consciousness, these things happen, right? And you are playing the game of law of karma with God. So God said, what shall you sow, so shall you reap. You do that, there are consequences, and those consequences would manifest in due course of time. Okay, this is how see, if you keep a calf in a million cows, not million, thousands, let's say cow has to go through million, thousands of calves, the cow will be able to find its calf, okay, amongst thousands of calves. Similarly, the karma will find you amongst people. So it happens, everything is happening for a reason. Karma never misses its date. So we are playing that game. So when you may say there is darkness, I will say there's an absence of light. Okay, so this is how it works. They are bereft of God consciousness, so those things happen. God is not control. He's given you a free will here, and we are anyway in a prison house of God, because we think we are somebody. We have our vajud and we have to enjoy. And God said, go to this reformatory called Mrityulok, fix yourself, and then I'll take you to my spiritual abode. So we are in a place which is a reformatory of God. It is called a Shashvatam and Dukhalyam, Mrityulok, where we are. Okay, and these things we'll have to deal with. Okay, we are not in a Golok or one of God's abode to demand everything perfect. When we are eligible for it, we'll get there. Until then, we'll have to play this game, and we have to go through the imperfections of Maya, which includes having to deal with Adi Devik, Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmik, Tridosh, Tritap, Panchiklesh, all that stuff, We have to deal with it. So you are in prison house of God. Okay, it is very flattering to know, but that is the reality of life. Okay, but happy to discuss more with you. Okay, if that answer did not resonate with what you're looking for, and moreover, if I can't convince you, I'll confuse you, at least here. So I'm happy to talk to you, later on as well if you want to. Okay, any more questions before we move on to our devotional segment?
I see Sandhya ji's hand raised.
Sandhya, go ahead.
This is for the devotional segment. No.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Any other questions from anyone? Typically, we wrap up our discussion at 10 Central, but we can probably take a question or so or chat, and if there's anything, otherwise we can move on to our devotional segment. Tomorrow we'll discuss about why we need to keep God's Aishwarya Shakti aside and more tap into his sweetness. There are two aspects to God's nature, his Aishwarya Shakti and his sweetness. We all have that aspect to our personality as well. One is our official form, and we deal, with professional etiquette with people around. And second is our homely form, where we want to let our hair down and just be ourselves. God also has that. So we'll talk about his second aspect of his personality and how it is, why it is important from a devotional standpoint. Tomorrow's discussion will entail that. And then there's going to be a beautiful presentation by Vinod Ji that I'm looking forward to as well. By the way, just want to remind you, last Thursday of the week is coming very quickly. So we need to take a group photograph. Just giving you a heads up, we'll keep reminding you as we get closer to that date so that we can have a group picture of everybody in DWFBG. All right. Okay. Is it all devotional segment from here on? So thank you, everybody. You're welcome to stay back for our devotional segment, where we are going to do a bit of chanting, recitation. It's always the icing on the cake for the sessions that we have. So I see two hands, Sandhya and Vikas. And who else is going to? So we can start with Sandhya and then Vikas. Anybody else? Maybe once you start, people will start making up their minds.
Okay. Should I start then? Okay. You can see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. I'll just give it an attempt. This bhajan I really like, so I'll just try.
And this is the bhajan because of which we lost in the bhajan round. Okay, it's Antakshari round.
But I think I heard this for the first time directly from Swamiji in that home satsang, and it was just beautiful. Okay. Piya mool amolak lijiye, piya mool amolak lijiye, piya mool amolak lijiye, piya mool amolak lijiye. अस अवसर फिर नाही मिलेगो, अस अवसर फिर नाही मिलेगो, भातन मोर पति जी, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए, बातन मोर पति जी, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए. This human birth is a golden opportunity. So Kripaluji Maharaj, who has written this bhajan, is stressing upon this. Pay heed to his words and do not miss out on this opportunity of purchasing the priceless Krishna and his love. बनन चाहत जो अमर सुहागिन, बनन चाहत जो अमर सुहागिनी, तन मन प्राणन दीजिए, पियलो मोल अमोलक लीजिए. If you wish to be an eternal bride of Shyam Sundar, offer all of your tan man pran to him. दे सर बस ले प्रेम सुधारस, दे सर बस ले प्रेम सुधारस, तेहि रस महनित भीजिए, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए. By offering material body and mind, taste the bliss of divine love for all eternity. पुनीत ही रस ही पीवाई और ही, पुनीत ही रस ही पीवाई और ही, आप ही सोई रस पीजिए, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए. Then give others the same bliss to drink while drinking it yourself. जन्म कृपालु सफल कर लीजिए, जन्म कृपालु सफल कर लीजिए, क्यों कर निज कर मीजिए, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए. Says Sri Kripalu, if you do not make this human birth successful, you will regret your carelessness when it is too late. पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful bhajan, Sangya. Really well sung. A lot of bhav and emotion into it and loaded with Tattva. Loved it. Thank you so much for, starting off the devotional segment on a great note. In fact, this bhajan, it is sung in 2 tunes. Okay, there's another one I'll share with everybody, and that is also sung very beautifully. There's another tune. This is probably one of the bhajans I've seen in 2 different tunes. Swamiji sings in the one that you sang, and there's another one. I really like it. So I think Kanchan or somebody had sung it. It was very beautifully sung, and it's very nice bhajan. So thank you so much for teeing off our devotional segment with a beautiful bhajan. Thank you. Who is next then? Vikash, you want to go next? Go ahead.
Yes, Radhe Radhe Vikas, go ahead.
So this is a poem about Lord Krishna, the source of all knowledge throughout the time and the space. Beautiful and the blissful, he is a pure love. His lotus-like eye and his sweet smiling face make the heart soar so high up like a dove. His skin is the color of a monsoon cloud. His hair is a black like starless night sky. He is the greatest God of whom we are proud. He is absolute truth, that's no lie. His hair has a wonderful peacock feather. His clean yellow cloth shines bright like the sun. He is the real reason we come together. He is our true love, the throughout one. He plays his fantastic flute for the devotee. He is ultimate lord of the dance. His lovers swarm around his like bumblebees. He represents pure and the perfect romance. His little left hand Piki can lift a hill. He is a powerhouse of the powerful men, of all men. The cosmic creation works under his will. He is the fame and the fine speech of all the women. He perfectly protects all of his true friends. He is the time and the death for the demons. He will be there after all the earth ends. He shines like a sun in all season. The scared scriptures sing of his heard glory, the telling the tales of how he got his fame, says, inspire us all his stories. Lo, behold, Lord Krishna is his name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Very nice, Vikas. Good. You're doing some research on Krishna and Radha and bringing it to our sessions. So kudos. Keep it up. And he's the one who will remain after the world ends. Okay, so that answers your question that you were asking about. Okay, so get to know Krishna. All of your questions will start getting put in perspective around that. Great. Thank you so much for that. With that, we moved on to Tarunji. Please go ahead.
It's very beautifully recited. Vikas. And actually, I just wanted to mention we have a new participant, Ishita Mathur as well, who has luckily joined for the devotional segment. So
Very nice.
welcome, Ishita.
Welcome, Ishita. And I saw Abhinav also turn on his video. Anybody who's new to the session, please come. I mean, very warm welcome to you, and we'd love to hear from you. And
Vikas, you're no more new.
and if you can sing, even better, I would say.
Okay, Tarunji. Radhe Radhe.
Please go
Radhe
ahead.
Radhe. I hope I am not going too much every day. Hope you will guys will be able to
Please go
hear
ahead.
me. Okay. मधुर मुक्त मुरली हरि हाथ भाए हरि दुख हरे जो हरि शरण आए मधुर मुक्त मुरली हरि हाथ भाए हरि दुख हरे जो हरि शरण आए हरि दुख हरता हरि सुख करता हरि हरि हर नाम जपना हरे कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare श्याम तेरी मुरली मधुर धुन सुनाए पनघट पे राधा खड़ी मुस्कुराए श्याम तेरी मुरली मधुर धुन सुनाए पनघट पे राधा खड़ी मुस्कुराए हरि जगत के पालनहारी माखन चोर है कृष्ण मुरारी हरि जगत के पालनहारी माखन चोर है कृष्ण मुरारी हरि दुख हरता हरि सुख करता हरि हरि हर नाम जपना हरे कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Radhe Radhe.
Very nice. Your enthusiasm is infectious, Tarunji. Very nice. The joy that you exude, while singing is very, very infectious. So good to see you singing always. Thank you so much for that. Nice. Manjuji, you want to go next? Okay, I'll just cite a few lines as well, if time permits. But yeah, Manjuji, go ahead.
Lovely, Tarunji, as always. Manjuji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Nitinji, you can go first, Nitinji. Anyway, I'm talking too much, I felt today.
No, Manjuji, you go ahead first.
Okay.
I told you your last name is, you share your last name with Radha Ju as well, right? So you go.
Thank you so much, Nitinji.
And she's called Radha Ju, so please go ahead.
Thank you so much. So this song is like written by Purandara Vittalaru. He's very famous in South, like which part? South India. So he has written some in Family Camp. Swamiji only mentioned like he wrote around 3 lakhs plus songs on Krishna bhajans he has written. So here is the song. Karuniso Ranga, Karuniso Krishna, Karuniso Ranga, Karuniso Krishna, Karuniso. ಹಗಲು ಇರಳು ನಿನ್ನ ಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮರೆಯದಂತೆ ಕರುಣಿಸೋ ರಂಗ ಕರುಣಿಸೋ. This is in Kannada language. What he is saying is he is asking for the grace of Lord Krishna. Ranga means Krishna. And what he's telling is, day and night I should never forget you. I should continuously meditate upon you. Such grace you give on me, grace on me, like he's singing. And just one more paragraph I'll sing end. ರುಕುಮಾಂಗದನಂತೆ ಋತವನ ನರಿಯೇ ರುಕುಮಾಂಗದನಂತೆ ಋತವನ ನರಿಯೇ ಸುಖ ಮುನಿಯಂತೆ ಸ್ತುತಿಸಲು ಅರಿಯೇ ಬಕವೈರಿಯಂತೆ ಧ್ಯಾನವ ಮಾಡಲರಿಯೇ ದೇವಕಿಯಂತೆ ಮುದ್ದಿಸಲರಿಯೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಕರುಣಿಸೋ ರಂಗ ಕರುಣಿಸೋ. Here he is comparing Rukmini, Sukamuni and Bhakavairi and Devaki, like how they are doing the love to you. Like that, I don't know anything. But still, you please grace me on to meditate upon you day and night, like he's telling. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Radhe.
Thank you for the beautiful singing and the narration along with it as well. So loved it. Very nice, Manjuji.
Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe to you.
God, you got so many hands now. So Ishita is a new one today. Ishita, you want to go next?
And so many people are inspired, and thank you,
All of a
Manjuji.
sudden.
Nitinji, do you want to sing your lines first?
Let's
And
give
then we
Ishita
can-
and then I'll go next, maybe after all of you, if time permits. Go ahead, Ishita.
Yes.
And
Radhe,
welcome to the session,
Ishita,
Radhe. Good to have you on
Yeah.
the session.
Namaste, Radhe Radhe to everyone.
Radhe Radhe, Ishita, and we have some inside news as well. I think you share your city with Urvi, right? Is that right?
Jodhpur.
Yeah. We have very inspiring people from Rajasthan here on our session. So welcome to our session. Please go ahead. What do you have? Are you singing something for us?
Yes, so I am. Yeah, so the bhajan goes like Chokh puravo mati rangavo Radha Raman mere ghar aayenge Radha Raman mere ghar aayenge हेरी सखी मंगल गाओ रे धरती अंबर सजाओ रे उतरेगी आज मेरे पी की सवारी हेरी कोई काजल लाओ रे मोहे काला टीका लगाओ रे उनकी छव से दिखूं मैं तो प्यारी लक्ष्मी जी आओ नजर उतारो राधा रमन मेरे घर आएंगे Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ishita, and you get the best debut award today. Very nice. And love your singing. I think you should sing more often and would love to hear more from you. So thank you so much for that. And
Thank you
hopefully
so
one of the
much.
days you can turn your camera on as well. So very nice.
Yeah,
Someone
for sure.
see you as well.
Yeah, I shall do that from tomorrow itself.
Welcome to the session. Hope you enjoyed the session and it was a pleasure hearing you. Thank you for
Thank
doing
you
it.
so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ishita. All right, Kavita, go ahead. What do we have today?
Chand. So it's a Chand by, sorry, Radhe Radhe everyone.
Sure, sure.
So it's a Chand by Maya Govind. तो जब कृष्णा और राधा महाराज रचाते हैं तो दोनों एक दूसरे में इतना खो जाते हैं कि अपनी पहचान ही भूल जाते हैं। तो ये दृश्य एक सखी देखती है और अगले दिन दूसरी सखी को बताती है कि ऐसी भई अनहोनी सखी अपनी छवि ना पहचानत राधा और रोवे जशोदा कि टोना भयो। यशोदा मैया रोने लगती है कि टोना हो गया मेरे कान्हा पे। और रोवे जशोदा कि टोना भयो कान्हा अपन नाम बतावत राधा। ओ घूंघट में उत्शाम ठने। कृष्णा घूंघट में डांस करने लग जाते हैं। ओ घूंघट में उत्शाम ठने इत बेसुध बंसी बजावत राधा। श्याम ही श्याम पुकारत श्याम और राधा ही राधा पुकारत राधा।
Beautiful, very nice, Kavita. Where do you get all these things from?
YouTube.
Good. Keep up the good work. Thank you for bringing it to the session. Loved it. It reminds me of Maharajji's bhajan in which he says, क्या था वो?
राधा रटे श्याम 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 रटे राधे ऐसे
One श्याम सलोना कर गया टोना गे दे गया रोना आस तिहारी मनुहार, something like that. Oh pyare. So it is that bhajan which talks about it's more in Virabha, where Gopi is complaining that Sham Solona gig kar gaya tona, de gaya rona. And now I'm waiting for him basically. So it's a beautiful way. Thank you so much, Kavita. Just reminded us of that. Now, Swatiji wanted to sing. Swatiji, you still there?
Ishita ji turned on her video and
Ishita?
Nitinji, wonderful bhajan. Thank you so much.
Kavita, when you sang, Ishita, you made Ishita turn on our videos. Maybe you should sing more often. Yes, Swatiji, go ahead. And then I can recite a couple of lines.
Radhe Radhe Swati ji.
Yeah,
Swatiji.
Radhe Radhe. I'll just sing small, not big one. Yeah. Man mohana, man mein raho, man mein raho, man ke manan mein raho, man mohana, man mein raho. तूने जो अंतर मन को आके छुआ है, मन में न वृंदावन के जैसे हुआ है, मन मोहना मन में रहो, चाह है तुझको मन से, पूजा है तुझको मन से, जोड़ा है तुझसे नाता बड़े ही जतन से, मन मोहना मन में रहो, मन में रहो, मन के मनन में रहो. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you. Very bhaput singing, Swatiji. So the bhajan on Manjuji, do you have anything to say? Manjuji is saying that it is very beautiful. Singing is very beautiful. Thank you so much. With that, we come to the end of today's session.
Your turn. You said you wanted to.
Do we have time or we are already? Okay, maybe quick. I can do that. So few lines maybe. मोहन तेरे चरणों की जो धूल ही मिल जाए, सच कहता हूँ मेरी तकदीर बदल जाए, मोहन तेरे चरणों की। सुनता हूँ कृपा तेरी, दिन रात बरसती है, एक बूंद जो मिल जाए, एक बूंद जो मिल जाए, मन की कली खिल जाए, मोहन तेरे चरणों की। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, मोहन तेरे चरणों की। All right. Radhe Radhe. Thank you, everyone. Do we have, I think we have covered everyone. So thank you for another immersive session, engaging session, and for all your enthusiasm that you bring to this session. So tomorrow we'll continue on this. We'll wrap up this shloka by talking about how do we make God reciprocate in a more sweeter manner. Okay, how can we build that personal connect with God and why it is important, right? Because Aishwarya Shakti, or if we get stuck at the fear level alone, we need something more, right? So how do we get to that more, and which is good for our journey and makes it sweeter and sweeter and sweeter is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Thank you. Radhe Radhe. Good day. Good night from my side.
Thank you so much, Nitinji, for such a concluding, mesmerizing bhajan. And thank you everybody for your wonderful participation. Look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Good night. Good